Episode 102, Developing CRM Practices with JP Van Dyke.
Welcome to the PR Playbook Podcast, the only podcast giving you actionable skills and advice you need to execute a strategic PR program. Warning: what you hear next may lead to brand awareness and increased sales and customer exposure. Now here's your host, Rinjini Joshua.
Hello and welcome to episode 102. I know I should just start at 2 at this point, but today we are talking about developing CRM best practices and prospecting with JP Van Dyke, president of JAC Consulting. Hi, JP. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. And we met each other because we are currently working together on LinkedIn and connecting with people and prospecting new business. So I thought this would be a great time to have this conversation because I think this is a challenge a lot of startups and small businesses have is really prospecting in the right way. So before we get started and jump into some best practices, can you give us a quick background on yourself and JAC Consulting?
Sure. Well, I've been in business for 19 years, and I what was really kind of exciting for me was I got invited to LinkedIn the very first month it was created. I'm like number it's like 7,085 or something, and I've been working and growing with LinkedIn. I launched my first LinkedIn service 14 years ago, and we just kind of keep changing, adapting, and growing as LinkedIn does. And it's been a wild and fun ride.
How many LinkedIn connections do you have?
Well, believe it or not, at the before Microsoft took over, Microsoft, put a cap of 30,000 when they
Okay.
took over. But before that, I had 146,000 connections.
Wow.
And
Uh,
and and that's because there was some real that was back in the Wild West days when we could do a whole bunch of crazy stuff, and there was really no benefit. And because you understand LinkedIn back then, the idea was, you could go viral.
mhm.
Well, that really doesn't really happen, but that was the idea, and that's why I had so many. I keep myself at about 20,000.
Do you this is a question I always have for myself is should you accept everybody who requests you as a friend or as a connection?
Absolutely not. Uh, First of all, there is a cap now. Right now, there didn't used to be a cap, and so that really never was a big deal. But now there is a cap. 30,000 is the cap, and while that seems pretty large, um, you really should get yourself in the habit of trying to talk to every single one of your connections at least once a year. And if you
Mm,
have 20,000, it takes me 6 months to talk to everybody.
right.
So you know you want to try to keep yourself in line with what your business is. Now that could change, obviously, over the years, different companies, different things. But you just look at it. Some influencers absolutely keep, but if you got a plumber in Des Moines and you're never going to do anything in the plumbing business, there's really no benefit in keeping them.
Yeah, I always have that like challenge of like I see people and I'm like, well, I could connect with them. I don't know if I should, but I've become a little bit more picky just because I don't want to get prospecting emails when I don't need them. But then I do go looking for people if I need a service. So I think it works kind of both ways, depends on what you need at the time, right?
Right. Yep. Absolutely right.
Do you have any okay, before we dive into the main meat, do you have any kind of tips on keeping your connections clean? Like just kind of should you like people always wonder if they should go through and clean out their Facebook friends list. Is it the same thing with LinkedIn? Should you go through and see who's active, who's not, maybe delete the people who aren't active on LinkedIn or something like that?
Well, I don't know about that part. It's very tough
Mhm.
to clean out your LinkedIn. That's why I kind of encourage people to do it as you're happening. Do it now. Get yourself into the habit. If somebody sends you an invite, or you even send invites, and you see, oh yeah, that's probably not the guy I want to be with. Disconnect it from the beginning, because it the only way to delete people is, I mean, it's easy to delete people. You just hit more and hit unconnect. But to find them, you have to do the search. then you have to look at that search, then you have to look at that list, and then you have to click one person at a time, then go backwards, do it again. It's very time consuming,
Yeah.
because you can only delete one person at a time. So it's tough to go back through, but really get yourself into the habit now of only accepting the ones that you know are a benefit. And then, as you see people, one of the things I do, and I give you a good little form of habit. When you're looking at your wall and somebody does something personal,
Mhm.
if you're a veterinarian and you put pictures of dogs, absolutely. That's what you do for a living. But if you're a financial planner and you're sharing pictures of your dog on the beach, you know what? That's not a benefit. That's Facebook. And I unconnect with that person.
Okay.
And keep it professional as much as you can. And in your own business, that's going to translate into better effectiveness in the business. Too many people have kind of got on there. It's gotten very political.
Yeah.
And I stay away from that. I have a very strong political opinion. I don't voice that stuff on LinkedIn. It's just not the place for it.
Yeah.
So you use your own best judgment, but by all means, really kind of get yourself into that habit of kind of looking at what's happening and unconnect with them. And it's going to help you in the long run.
Yeah, I think that's like networking 101 too when you look at LinkedIn. I mean, there's just I also agree with you. Like I have opinions. I just don't express a lot of political opinions on LinkedIn because I want to stay pretty neutral. I am pretty neutral for the most part, but like, I don't want to have if I don't really feel strongly about a position, I'm not going to express it usually. I don't really like pander to like the feminist conversations or anything like that. I mean, it is very tricky to stay professional and I think people sometimes forget. And I remember I engaged in a conversation where this person was getting really upset about like, well, why do we need to keep it professional? You know, part of being professional is being authentic and then there's that whole influencer thing about being authentic. Well, yeah, if that's who you are as an influencer, fine,
Absolutely.
if that's your job, being an influencer and being authentic, but my job is being a owner of a PR agency. So I'm really going to focus on that topic, right? I think people forget LinkedIn is a resume. Like stick
It's a
to your
business site.
resume.
It's a
Yeah.
business site. If you're a political, I used to be a political consultant. I had a business, and I used to. That's what I did. I go to LinkedIn because I was trying to influence what I'm doing. But that's not what I do now. I do LinkedIn prospecting. So I'm not going to get into that part of the business. And the old adage, and you're in PR, all
Yeah.
news is good news if you're in the business, whether it's bad or it's good. If you're getting looked at, that's what
Yeah.
you want to do. But the truth is, people want to build relationships on LinkedIn. That's the goal, is to build strategic relationships. And if you're in there spouting about how much you hate Donald Trump or you hate Joe Biden or you hate this or you hate that, you're not doing yourself a benefit there.
Right, right. No, absolutely. And I agree, like that's Facebook or Instagram or something more personal. So, when we first started connecting, you had mentioned, some tips on like kind of getting your profile right. And I thought maybe this would be a good place to maybe talk about that too. Before we go into kind of best practices on linking in with other people, how do you present? I mean, since we're already on the topic of presenting yourself, what are some main things and some tips that you shared with me? But like, what are some main things that people should be looking at when they're looking at their own profile to optimize it?
The first thing is background, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be business related, but anything that's eye catching. We talk about it. I think I got it from you. Did you give me the idea of the restaurant, the menu thing?
No, no, that
Okay.
wasn't me.
So I
It's
always
a
use
great idea.
I used to use the analogy of buying a house. The first thing a real estate agent tells you is make sure the lawn is manicured, make sure the bushes are all nice and
Right.
chopped up and all stuff. Because it's that curb appeal. You want to go up and you start right from the beginning thinking, oh wow, I could drive home to this every day. Well, someone else gave me an idea that I thought was even better. When you're looking at dinner menu, if you see an item that's gorgeous to look at, well, then you certainly want to try it. And
Yeah.
so the same thing with your LinkedIn, that background image is that curb appeal. It's that menu item that just looks delicious. It doesn't necessarily have to be work related. If you can make it work related, great, but it doesn't have to be. If it's really visually captivating, it gets people to want to keep reading.
Okay.
The second thing is the tagline. A lot of people just put what their job is, right? I am the vice president of social media marketing or whatever. No, again, you're trying to stand out. If we go to a network meeting, you and I'm going to grab a Diet Coke. I'm going to put my butt against the wall and I'm going to watch everybody. And I have no problem talking. I can talk about LinkedIn for days, but I'm not the guy putting my nose in the group of 4 people saying whatever. If there's a conversation to be had, I'm in there. Well, LinkedIn is different. I have to stand out. I have to have people looking at this and going, man, I want to read more. I want to look at this.
Yeah.
So your profile needs to be there. And your first piece is that tagline. Stand out, be bold, get in there and say something that, if you're in healthcare, the premier healthcare expert in the United States. Holy cow, what a thing to say.
Yeah.
For you, the premier public relations artist that there is, whatever, anything that makes you stand out, people are going to read.
Yeah.
And then, believe it or not, the most important section is the about section, because this is where you get to do something that most places don't do. This isn't a website, right? You want to talk to the one person who's looking at your profile, and you want them to read that part of it and understand what you're going to do for them.
Mm-hmm.
Not about you. You don't talk about your achievements or your things. You talk about what it is you're going to bring to the table to help that business make money.
I mean, unless you're looking for a job,
No,
and then
that's
you do
different.
talk about it,
And there is either one of those. You're
right? Yeah.
If you're looking to make money, you're talking about what you can do for the person reading it. If you are looking for a job, absolutely, you put your accomplishments, but write it as you're talking to me. I tell people all the time, if I was your prospect and you were taking me to lunch and I said, okay, go ahead, pitch me, give it to me, tell me what you got. That's what you write in there.
And
Because we're
is there like a best practice on the length of it?
Not really. I mean, nobody wants to read a book. Nobody wants to go in there and go, holy cow, I don't have time to read all that. So, I mean, you kind of take that for granted. But it's also, I get a lot of people to tell me that the flow of how I wrote mine is good. It kind of lends itself to, here was the concept, here's some details, and here's the pitch. But, and you play with that. You practice it, get other people to read it, get their opinion. I'm a terrible writer. I write something, it takes me, an hour to put a little piece together, and I keep, twitching it. Some people can just, write it off and it's no big deal. But, again, it's about the person looking at it, thinking you're talking to them. Big difference. It's not a
Yeah.
resume. It's about talking to the person who's looking at it.
Is there anything else on the profile side? I mean, you kind of named the main 3 things. From that point, are people making a decision whether they want to engage it with you, or is there anything else that could be helpful?
The only other piece that, in my opinion, is probably as powerful as anything else on the profile is recommendations. You can buy Facebook friends. You can buy Google reviews. You can buy Twitter followers. A friend of mine told me the other day that I can buy subscribers on my YouTube. You can't buy LinkedIn recommendations. The only way to get a recommendation is at first you and I have to be connected. Then I
Right.
send you a request that says, can you please write me something real nice, whatever. You write it, and then I accept it and put it on my profile. And here's the really strong part of this. Not only is it a great recommendation when I've got it, but the person looking at it can click on it, go see who you are to see how strong that recommendation was, not just what somebody wrote, but wow, she's the president of a PR firm and that's what she said about this guy. So
Mm,
it's really solid. They're hard to get. I mean, I've been doing it for years. I only have about 50.
mhm.
I think I read an article once that the guy who had the most recommendations out there was only like 250 out of 800
Yeah.
million people. 250 recommendations that I probably have 500 outstanding that they haven't given.
Can you do that for so you know how you have like the company pages? Can you do that for the company pages?
No,
Just
no.
personal.
That's a recommendation. It's just on your personal profile. But
Mm,
again, they're very, very powerful because it gives you an insight and it gives the person looking at it not only just to read that nice little blurb, but to see who actually wrote that for them and see how powerful. I've got some Fortune 1000 companies who've written me recommendations, and I get people that tell me, I want you to do for me what you're doing for Lance. That's what I want."
Hmm.
So that's the other part. Honestly, the rest of it, it's fluff. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing in there that has any real other relevance. Putting
What about posting frequency? Like your activity on there? Like if you post stuff or respond to stuff, what about that? Because I have noticed a difference in when I post things more regularly, I have a lot more engagement and people are connecting with me more. People are like I get more page views, but could just be the LinkedIn algorithm. I'm not sure. So like what about that? What about posting on LinkedIn? What is your suggestion for that?
Well, LinkedIn has really changed the rules in the last 18 months about how posting has benefits to you. The first thing is views are nothing. You get 10,000 views doesn't really make any difference to you. Likes, again, nothing. Comments and shares are monster. If you get 10 comments, and that's why you'll see a lot of posts of people who will say, please comment, give me your opinion, give me your feedback. If you get just 10 comments, if you looked in your LinkedIn and in the notification section, you'll see where it says there's a trending article like Gary Sinise. I'm good friends with Gary Sinise, and I'm part of his organization stuff. And so when he's wrote a good article, I'll get a piece on there says Gary Sinise's trending article, yada yada yada. You should comment. That didn't come from Gary. That came from LinkedIn because so many people commented and they're pushing that out themselves to influencer people that have either expressed interest or commented on things in the past. So that's a huge deal. It's not easy to get. Um, uh, so, and then when it comes to frequency, you use your best judgment. People don't want to be inundated by posts. I mean, the person that I get that starts posting every day, I mute them. I don't have time. That's taking up too much of stuff for me. So I mean, everybody has their own filters and how they do stuff.
Yeah, like
The
quality over quantity,
Right. The
basically.
sweet spot's a
Yeah.
couple times a week. I mean, it really is. If you've got something really relevant to say, if you're
Right.
out there just trying to push content so you can get visible, well, you'll get the results that you're probably not really looking for. So, good quality is always going to trump quantity every single time.
Okay. That's I
I
mean,
would-
that's true with PR too, I think. Even though they say all press is good press, I beg to differ with that.
yeah.
um,
I would not waste any time in groups. Groups have really lost a lot of momentum in the years. You're
really.
just not think about it, and you think about your own wall too. I mean, how far do you scroll down to see past posts? Groups
Uh-huh.
are even worse because you're not even in there very much. So if there's 15,000 people in a group and 500 people post this week, are you going down 500 posts to see what I wrote 4 days ago? No, unless
What
I'm
about
on
what about
there.
for marketing? What about for like LinkedIn marketing to market to groups?
The only benefit that you really get from groups is individual messaging. A lot of people
Mhm.
don't realize that if you belong to a group, you're actually allowed to message every single person in the group free, not the
Oh,
ones you're not connected to. These are basically free in mails, if you will. Um,
well, that's
and,
good.
and so that has some benefit because you can see there's no sorting, like you can't figure out who they are. If you have Sales Navigator, believe it or not, you can. If you have Sales Navigator, you can actually filter within that group and pick out just the CEOs that you want to talk to or
Mhm.
CFOs or whatever. But otherwise, that's really the big benefit that you can still get in groups. There used to be a lot more opportunity to it, but it's really not there. Even starting your own group, again, the
Yeah.
benefit of being the group owner is you can keep a post at the top of the page. That's about it. There's no benefit to even being a group owner anymore.
Yeah, I know at one point we were trying to create these like industry groups and we would use LinkedIn to try to do that, but the engagement it just wasn't really it's not there. It's like nobody's really paying attention to that. Nobody has time anymore.
Well, 4 years ago, LinkedIn took a hammer to groups. It used to be phenomenal. If you were a group owner, I had a pharmaceutical group, 125,000 pharmaceutical reps in it. I could literally post one message and all 125,000 people get it. And of course, that's gone.
Maybe that's from like CCPA or whatever the privacy act Is
No, I think
profit.
people were making too much money. I mean, I actually had I had sold that opportunity to Pfizer, AstraZeneca, a couple others where they would pay me monthly very serious amounts of money, and they would be able to send a message to all 125,000 agents anytime they want.
Wow.
And it was great. I mean, I had a movie industry guy, same thing for indie movie guys, and it was phenomenal. And then Microsoft took a hammer to it,
Oh, wow.
like a
Okay.
sledgehammer.
So let's I mean, I have some other questions I would love to get to, but we're just gonna move on. We're gonna move on to the main topic, which is really CRM and kind of really prospecting best practices, right? And you have some great tips on the way we should be engaging with people, the frequency. So I would just love to, if for someone who is doing business development in a startup or trying to connect with people from events, what are maybe like three top tips that you have on connecting and engaging with people to get them into that next conversation?
Okay. And if you don't mind, can I throw in this is what we do for a business? We do
Absolutely. Please.
Okay. We actually do a prospecting service where we do the inviting for you. We teach you how to do the messaging. We have a CRM that's involved with that. It's very inexpensive, a yearly fee. But so the first thing you do is obviously the rules are now you can send 100 invitations to connect every single week with LinkedIn. If you do this on a regular basis, and you have a good welcome message, not a sales pitch, but a nice welcome message, you're going to see low end 10 to 15 people a week connect, if not more. Our average clientele is seeing actually 25 to 35. So the numbers are solid simply because most of the Autobots are gone. Something like 80% are all gone now. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah, well, that's one of the biggest reasons LinkedIn did this was to take a hammer to Autobots.
Yeah, that was driving everyone crazy.
It
I mean,
was,
it
it
still
was,
does, but
it
yeah.
was. So the first rule when you've got that new connection, and here are the metrics, by the way. If you have 500 connections and you send all 500 people a message, the average read rate is 50%. So the numbers are phenomenal when you're sending a message to people that you're connected to.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Within the first 30 days of a new connection, they're reading your messages at a 90% rate. So that new connection, you've got a month to kind of get your point across, get in front of them, get what you want to do. And this is where everybody makes the biggest mistake. The number one thing that everybody does, I'd say 99%, I'm in the 1 percentile of when you get a new connection and you've accepted my connection, everybody does one thing. They send a sales pitch. That's it. 3 paragraphs, 4 paragraphs. Oh, thanks for connecting. I was looking at your profile. No, you didn't. And let me tell you what I do, and yada, yada, yada. And nobody even pays much attention to that anymore. So don't do that. Honestly, thank them for connecting. That's it.
Mhm.
I'd like to thank you for connecting. I'm really trying to make LinkedIn a bigger part of my business. That starts from great connections. I hope you'll take a deeper look at my profile. I'm going to do the same to you, and maybe we can chat in a week or two. That's your message. Make them go, okay, I've never seen that before. And then they go look at your profile because that's what you want them to do in the first place is go look at your profile.
Yeah.
Then your next message, which is about a week later, you have to look at their profile. Okay. If you do that, that wall is going to start coming down because the first thing that happens is I know you looked at my profile. You took the time to do it. This wasn't a cut and paste, and it certainly wasn't a robot. And it's what you pull out of that 30-second to 40-second spot. It's you pull out, a lot of people put only a few little personal things on LinkedIn. This isn't Facebook and Twitter. Well, not Twitter, but it's not a personal site. But people put where they volunteer. People put some little things that may be important to them. If you mention that, if you ask a question, if you look at my profile, I'm a veteran. I mentor soldiers coming out of the service, and I coach football. If you mention any one of those things, two things happen. One, you touched on something that has some meaning for me, but you've also looked at my profile and I know you did.
Mhm.
Then you put in a soft pitch. And here's the big one. This is the big one. Everybody listen to this now. Don't be afraid. Don't be reticent about trying to get the conversation going on LinkedIn. Don't try to get them to leave. Don't say, "Oh, here's my calendar. Here's my appointment. When can I call you? Thursday or Friday? What's better?" Just say, "Listen, let's chat right here for a little bit." Two things
Mhm.
are going to happen. One, you're going to find out whether the guy isn't or her girl even is a prospect by a couple text, chats there. But then you start to build that little bit of relationship. Zig Ziglar said, "If I like you, I'll give you an appointment. If I trust you, I'll get you a sale." I
Mhm.
can't them to trust you. But LinkedIn, you can get them to like you. That chat window has a really powerful opportunity for you to share some stuff. I'm passionate about golf. It comes in every conversation I have. And so I can bring that stuff into the chat window and talk about it and ask, what kind of golf is around where you live and that stuff. So don't
Mhm.
be afraid because you can have that conversation go for a week or two before it transition off there. It's the biggest miss that people make is not just keeping them where you found them. Keep them right there on LinkedIn until they're ready to go.
I think that's one of the things that people, like, just don't like about also social media, which may be they don't again, it's like that gray area between a personal conversation, which, like, maybe you do on Facebook messaging, or maybe you do on your text messages, personal and professional, and I think that's such a gray area that people, like, they get confused, they don't know how to navigate that. And I agree with you, like, I agree with you in that, I've probably rushed a lot of people off of LinkedIn, even though they're, like, willing to chat on LinkedIn. I'll be like, "Oh, well, let's take this to email," because in my mind, the professional thing to do is to have an email engagement and an interaction or a phone call. For me, that just makes more sense because I think that's from the era that I come from. Now this new era of social media, of convenience, I think people have to realize it's really about convenience and maximizing time. And if that person's already on LinkedIn, well, of course they're gonna keep chatting. And a lot of people do LinkedIn on mobile. So I think it just really depends on the style. And to your point, if they want to come off of LinkedIn and they want to go into email or they want to go into, you can give them that option in the chat,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and a lot of people don't understand in your chat window, there is a little button. It has a camera in it. You can
Yeah, I saw
instantly go
that.
live on LinkedIn. I'm chatting, and now we're actually chatting live. And I'm chatting, and I say, "Listen, what do you think about a real quick meeting?" And I don't wait for you to answer. I push the button. I said, "I
I've
just sent you a
never
request
I've
on
never
LinkedIn."
done that yet. I'm a little
I do it
scared of that
all the
button.
time. And people go, first people would say is, "How'd you do that? I didn't even know that was an option
Right, like,
here."
what is this?
And then we're live on LinkedIn. It's not off LinkedIn. It's not Zoom. It's Google. We're live on LinkedIn. And
Mhm.
and that's that little interaction that starts the whole chain reaction. And again, if you build that relationship a little bit, we had some messages, we have some messages. Now we're live, and all of a sudden things have gone to a whole different level within a second, and you didn't even know what happened. It
Yeah, I
works.
mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's a little scary. I'm not a salesperson, so that's the other problem. I personally am not a salesperson, so I know that's the way that we typically sell, like, we'll meet people, and then, back in the day before the pandemic, you that's what you do. You go, you have a meeting with someone, you close a deal, and then I think people have gotten away from that so much because we've been on Zoom for so long, we're on Slack, we're on, like you said, like, the messages. It's like going face to face with someone, it feels intimidating.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have changed though. Like I do phone calls. I'd rather be on
Mm,
a phone call than a Zoom. As you see, I'm not the prettiest face on the camera, so I'd rather be on a phone call anyway. But when it comes to business, you take people as they're available to you, right?
mhm.
And so if I've got a good conversation going in chat in the text messaging of LinkedIn, moving it to the next step is so easy and
Yeah.
you know if you're ready. I mean, you know it. And most people know it if you're having the right conversation. But you'll be amazed at how many people, because if I'm the salesman, you're trying to get that wall down a little bit so that you really listen to what I'm having to say. That's where that message window can be huge in getting that wall down. Because, first of all, you can I don't know if that's the right word, but you can almost start to see what kind of personality that person has. right? Not completely. It's not the same as a video call or a phone call,
Right.
but for me, like I said, I've learned to interject my golf and my kids and things like that in there, which really get people to see what kind of person I am.
Yeah, no, those are good points. This has been great. I mean, I love the tips. Did we miss anything in this conversation? Just for on the basics, I guess.
I don't think so. I mean, there's so much about LinkedIn. I
I
think
know.
the biggest mistake people make is they treat it as something they don't understand how to use. I hear every single day from all the prospects that I get. Well, I've never made any money on LinkedIn. It doesn't work. Well, it
That's
does.
because you haven't done it correctly.
Hey, right there. That's it right there.
Well, this has been awesome. Okay, how can people find you? We're gonna have your information in the show notes and of course your LinkedIn profile so everybody could see how it's done. But how can people find you?
JAC Consulting.com. And if for just a little history, J is for JP, A is for my oldest son, Austin, C is for my youngest son, Cooper.
Okay.
JAC Consulting.com.
So
Um,
they're gonna be following in your footsteps, hopefully.
yeah, we'll see. I don't know what they're going to do. We'll see. Um, but our service, one of our main services is LinkedIn prospecting. We do the 100 invitations for you every single week. We teach you how to message those people back. We have a CRM that allows you to manage the one thing that LinkedIn does not give us in any place, a really good organization tool for your connections. And
Mm,
we do that for $600 per year,
yeah.
not per month, per year.
Yeah. No, that's a great deal. And I'm so excited to get started on the messaging and we've been creating a system ourselves. So thank you for all your help. And yeah, your advice has been invaluable. I love these little tips are just so great in really optimizing everything that people are doing as far as like new business development and if they really want to move the needle to the next step. So I appreciate this conversation and I appreciate your help.
Thank you. You have a great day.
All right. Thanks, JP. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And we will have all his information in the show notes for you guys. So if you want to link in with JP or get connected, you'll be able to do that there. All right. Have a great day and talk to you guys later.